We can speak to GB News political editor Christopher Hope, who's in Westminster and has been dissecting all this for us all day. So, Christopher, it sounds like the government is still very committed to the Rwanda plan, despite it being deemed unlawful by the Supreme Court. How does that work?
That's right. The PM is doubling down on their commitment to Rwanda, not least so over the £100 million the UK has spent there trying to make it appropriate to receive illegal arriving migrants from this country. Just an hour ago, Number 10 have been briefing that in fact this a new treaty with Rwanda, will be laid in Parliament in the coming days so flights can commence as soon as possible. And obviously the text of that document is absolutely vital. They think they can allay the fears expressed in this legal decision today by the Supreme Court in that document. So basically changing the law to allow this policy to happen. Now, take your view on that. Will it go up to the European judges in Strasbourg? Will they then go through the same rigmarole of stopping flights, taking off when a plane's on the tarmac? Will we go through all this again on a kind of Groundhog Day doom loop all next year? Well, certainly Mr Sunak hopes not. He's kept in his back pocket, as he made clear in Prime Minister's questions, that he will review the domestic legal framework, including international conventions. Now, that's a clear indication to the right of the party. He's looking at maybe pulling out of the European Convention on Human Rights, repealing the Human Rights Act, but that's not really where James Cleverly sits. He's shortly after Mr Sunak sat down, Mr Cleverly told MPs, we're not going to put forward proposals simply to manufacture an unnecessary row for short-term gain. So clearly there's almost a division emerging right now between the new Home Secretary, James Cleverly, and his Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, on something fundamental at the heart of Tory right-wing politics, really, which is withdrawal of the ECHR to give back us all control of our borders and our laws. That slogan from the 2016 EU referendum.
Fascinating that it's being revisited there. Of course, we're going to hear more from the Prime Minister at 4:45 in a Downing Street press conference. What can we expect to hear from him then?
Well, he'll look to reassure that's a chance to look down the barrel of a camera rather than at Sir Keir Starmer and try and convince voters at home, viewers of GB News watching that live, why he can deliver on this promise to stop the boats. He made that promise, Tom, didn't he, back in January. This means he can't stop the boats. That idea has gone. The waiting list won't be cut up the NHS. Other measures. There's good news today on inflation. He'll probably want to stress that. I have dealt with the biggest, he would call it a tax on people's wage packets, which is inflation. Well, there's not really a tax, but he calls it a tax. But he'll try and use that moment to look down the barrel of the camera to our viewers and try and convince them that, trust me, I can sort out this small boat's mess. Now, the numbers of arrivals have slowed by a third. Because of a deal with Albania, where some of the criminal gangs from Albania were bringing these individuals over on the boats there across the channel. But he needs to go much further than that, and stop the boats means stop the boats. And of course, he didn't say it'd be by this year, but it will be at some point soon. So it's on him really to convince our viewers, voters, that he's got what it takes. But on the sidelines, Tory MPs are very cross. Dame Andrea Jenkin put a letter in this week of no confidence. She tells us 6 more MPs feel the same way. That number's growing and growing in Sir Graham Brady's in tray. If that reaches more than 50 or so Tory MPs, it might trigger a protest vote of no confidence. I don't think it'll unseat Mr Sunak, but it'll be a big wake-up call for his administration and Number 10 Downing Street.
This new treaty with Rwanda, Chris, it could be ready within a week or so. Progress could be rapid.
Well, so they say, within days. It'll then be pored over by lawyers, and that will then go through Parliament. MPs will pass it, and then we might have a battle between whether a sovereign law passed by Parliament can be challenged in European courts, and then we get this old conflict of do we have control of our borders and our laws after the Brexit referendum in 2016? We're meant to have done, aren't we? We're told we were going to have that by Boris Johnson, the architect of that. Now he's left the government, no. But Mr Sunak did support Brexit. So it's a real challenge for him to make sure he can deliver on that. But to be fair to if you can be fair to the Tory government on this one, what they are trying to do here is more than Labour. And the Tory party has put out an advert this lunchtime on social media of the Keir Starmer opening the door to more migrants coming here. And the view is, and they'll use this at the election, that at least they're trying to do something different rather than just not do enough, as they would say Labour are planning to. Labour's plan is to work more closely with law enforcement on the continent and do more bilateral deals, which really is what the Tory government's trying to do. So I think they are trying to do more, and they have got. It's not an easy place, I think, for Keir Starmer to argue against the Tories on.
And some suggestions that a Labour government deal with the EU would involve sharing EU migrants with the United Kingdom, potentially more asylum seekers coming to the UK via that route. We know that's what happened under the Dublin arrangements when we were members of the EU.
Yeah, that would be difficult for many to understand if that is what we actually mean by Brexit, if we're going to start sharing quotas of migrants from who are set around the country. As you say, the Dublin Agreement ended there, so whether that can be renegotiated in a different way by Sir Keir Starmer, the whole trade and cooperation agreement is up for grabs and renegotiation in a year and a half's time or so. So whether that forms part of that conversation, it shouldn't, but it may do. We'll wait and see.
Well, big steps ahead. Chris Hope, thanks very much for updating us there.